At the day of my birth, I was gifted with the luxuries of a first world nation, until God decided I wasn't worthy of them, and banished me to what is the living hell of South America. To be specific, the country of Chile. So, what is this place I call home? Well, you're here to find out, so you better pay attention. First off, a little history lesson. Around 10,000 years ago, the first settlers would set up shop at what we now know as modern-day Chile. These groups would eventually become the Mapuche, Aymara, Atacameño, Quechua, Chango, Cuya, Huiliche, the Agüita, and the Cauescar tribes. In 1540, this guy, along with some Spaniards, made the worst mistake of their lives by settling down in this godforsaken land. How was life during these times? Pretty miserable. So while Spain was getting their teeth kicked in, everyone in South America went berserk. Chile wanted in on the action. They failed, tried again, succeeded, and formed a republic. Since Chileans hate everyone, they couldn't get along with each other. However, they put their differences aside and started my favorite Chilean tradition, bullying Peru and Bolivia. Since it was funny the first time, they decided to do it again. However, screwing over their neighbors wasn't enough for them, so they went after the natives. The pacification of Araucanía would deal a blow so powerful to the Mapuches that even to this day, they have not yet recovered. During the Panama Crisis of 1885, the Chilean government dispatched a warship to deal with the gringos who had set up shop in the country. Their immediate response was to literally go to war with the USA. Unfortunately, the Americans pussied out. Everything was going pretty well, until... Things took a turn for the worse due to the construction of the Panama Canal, World War I, the creation of synthetic saltpeter, and, of course, the big sad. What followed would be some good old political instability. Socialism was also on the rise, which led to this guy, Salvador Allende, becoming president. Some social charity work here, some economic collapse there, a little coup in Santiago, and boom, Allende was replaced by the funny helicopter man. After a little trolling, Argentina felt that they had the balls to invade Chile over some territorial dispute. However, they pussied out because they couldn't handle the gigachad energy generated by Chile's Prussian drip. Of course, Chile did not take lightly to this, so they supported Britain in the Falklands War, which to this day has pissed them off so much that they call us traitors. What followed was some economic growth, a plebiscite, economic collapse, economic growth again, and another plebiscite. Pinochet got ratioed so hard he was asked to step down from the presidency. Democracy made a comeback, and everybody lived happily ever after. This is Chile. No one gets a happy ending. Due to wealth inequality, the people started to protest, which led to a new constitution being considered. Very few could ever hope to get an opportunity like this, so logically, they elected the most competent and intelligent individuals to write it. As expected, it was rejected. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about who actually lives here. The Chilean people can be divided into several subcategories. First, we have the Flaite, known for their love of cheap booze, cigarettes, shitty music, and fresh cuts. They can usually be found in low-income urban areas. For comparison, they're Chile's version of the chav or the gopnik. You can immediately tell if one is in your area due to the loud music coming from the car and the trail of beer cans that they've left behind. The huaso is another type of Chilean that can be found in rural areas of the country, characterized by their sombreros, a set of teeth so foul not even the British can look at them, and their inability to form a comprehensible sentence. The cuico is usually a person of upper socioeconomic class or someone who tries to imitate them, also known as a new rich. Similar to the cuico, the zorron is wealthy but usually younger. Muscular, impudent, wet hair, wide cars, fat wristwatches are the defining characteristics of the zorron. The German immigrant tends to live in the southern part of the country. Many arrived during the 1800s. The rest of them arrived shortly after World War II. There are also a large community of Croatians and Swiss immigrants who live down south as well. There are also many indigenous groups in the country, all with their own unique cultures and even languages. They're, for the most part, pretty chill. There's also one species of Chilean that has unfortunately gone extinct. Long ago, the emo colony ships would arrive in Chile during the ancient year of 2004. The local Flaites couldn't resist the big titty goth girls and ditched the local women in favor of getting together with the new arrivals. After having some fun, they created what we now know as Pokémones. Aside from the locals, there are also a few new species who have settled down in the area. The first group will be the Haitians. While Chileans expect to be paid minimum wage for their work, the Haitians will gladly accept any job for $2 a month. Closely related to the Haitians, we have the Flaitianos. These are Haitians who have fully embraced their Chilean side. Surprisingly, there's also a large amount of Palestinians. In fact, they are the largest community outside of the Middle East. Palestinian immigration started shortly after the Crimean War due to the downfall of the Ottoman Empire and the arrival of Jewish immigrants in the Holy Land. Imagine coming from a country so bad that you have to move to Chile to find a better life. Welcome to the life of a Venezuelan. Venezuelans have had it pretty rough. Most just want to provide a better future for their families. There have been incidents of migrants committing petty crimes and getting involved in gang violence. On top of that, illegal immigration has also contributed in many negative stereotypes. The language spoken in the country is Spanish. However, Chilean Spanish is notorious for being incomprehensible by foreigners because they simply do not possess a sufficient IQ to understand such complexity. In all seriousness though, it's not weird, it's just different. All Chileans tend to be a diverse group of people. They're united in their love of football. And dear God, do they ever love this sport. I used to get bullied in school just for wearing the wrong football jersey. While they may be good at football, they certainly aren't good at cooking. When Gustavo Fring said he was making a traditional dish, I immediately felt bad for Walter. The moment he became Heisenberg was when he was forced to eat a Chilean salad. I'm not talking about traditional food. That stuff is actually pretty good. I'm talking about the day-to-day stuff, and you know, the little things. Pasta, rice, chicken are all pretty popular here. Want a churrasco or a completo? Well, I hope you like mayo and palta. Want to spice up your meal? I hope you like salt. Now, don't get me wrong, this stuff isn't bad. It's just very bland or too excessive in some cases. And the only thing they really use for seasoning is salt and lemon. One day when I was at my local almacén, the most Chilean-looking man, equipped with a sombrero, button-up shirt, belt, and pocket knife, walks in and buys the 3 essentials of the Chilean diet: a bag of marraqueta, a bottle of Coke, and a pack of cigarettes. And I'm not even joking about this. Chile is one of the largest consumers of bread in the world, and ranks in the top 5 when it comes to smoking rates by country. And for some reason, they have the highest life expectancy on the continent. Members of a family or a community will come together once in a while, or every weekend that is, to practice the ancient art of the asado. They gather around the parrilla and begin to prepare the delicacy that is lomo liso and choripanes. It is speculated by scientists that only those who are permanently infused with a sombrero are capable of perfecting this form of art. As for traditional food, it's probably some of the best that you can find here in Latin America. Empanadas are iconic and can come with either meat, cheese, or even cheese with seafood if you're a fucking degenerate. Cazuela is pretty simple but still pleasant. Sopaipillas can go with a variety of things. If you ever head on over to the coast, make sure to try out some homemade ceviche, which is indeed Chilean and definitely not Peruvian. The best place to get it is beside a smelly fish market. Seafood soups are also a must-have, the best ones being those with shellfish. The most common type of fish being served is reineta, which is usually fried and accompanied by either rice, french fries, or mashed potatoes. After eating all of that, perhaps a nice cup of mote con huesillo, or a shot of pisco sour, which I can say with full confidence is 100% Chilean. Aside from the food, there are other aspects of Chilean culture that should be considered, such as music. Cueca is the national dance of Chile, and is very common during September, which is when they celebrate the country's independence. There's also plenty of other songs produced by artists, such as Violeta Parra, and bands like Los Prisioneros. While we're at the topic of media, it's time to talk about the pinnacle of Chilean television. Imagine if the Muppets started their own edgy news channel. Then, you would get the show, 31 Minutos. I recently came across a video talking about the show, and it brought back so many memories of my childhood. It reminded me just how good the show was, and I decided to watch the entire series. Well, most of it. While watching it, I was actually surprised by how much you can actually learn about Chile, mostly thanks to the incredible reporting of Juan Carlos Boloque, aka the spirit animal of every Chilean. So yeah, it's a pretty good show, go check it out. There's also another movie called Machuca, which is also pretty good. You can go check that one out as well, please. There's also this comic series about a horny chicken known as Condorito, who likes big titty women and gets drunk every Friday. He is the embodiment of your average Chilean male. Now, you may not have noticed this, but Chile is a very long country. The benefit of this is that there's like one road that you can take through most places. The country is divided into 16 regions. 17 if you include the temporarily occupied territory of Patagonia. To summarize everything, north, sunny and sandy. South, cold and wet. Center, hot and hilly, all of which are very mountainous. Since Easter Island is indeed historic Chilean land, this confirms that the Easter Bunny is Chilean. No wonder these kids look so miserable. In terms of environmental diversity, it's probably as diverse as Chile is long. Fields of grass, snowy peaks, sand dunes, and forests. You got it all. Of course, most of the inhabitants live in towns and cities, so let's get to know them. Arica. The only thing of note from this place was an incident where someone put a little something in the mayo. Calama, mining town. Valparaiso, it's the country's largest port and it's also filthy. Puerto Montt, home to a bunch of boomers and tourists. Puerto Williams, it's the southernmost city in the world. And finally, we have Santiago, the country's capital and largest city. To traverse the capital, you can either use a car like an idiot, or you can take the metro like a real man. Not only is the Santiago Metro one of the largest and most efficient in the Americas, but is also filled with various forms of art and literature, almost as if it were an arc of sorts for Chilean culture. Overall, it's pretty efficient. Just watch out for the locals and you'll be okay. God forbid it rains in this country, because the power grid always shits itself when it happens. Fortunately, Chile is quite used to earthquakes, with casualties being rather low in modern times. There are other things I could possibly talk about in this video, but it's already getting pretty long. So before I go, remember, Chile is indeed the greatest country in Chile.